In Photoshop, have you ever wanted to create colourful text? Well, you can, using adjustments as well as blurs. Create these weird and wonderful colourful designs. Now, I'm just going to go to the Layers panel. You can find all the panels in the Window menu. Now, the document's about 1980. Of course, you can create it any size you want. Just go to the Horizontal Type tool. I'm going with black, Arial Black, create some text. Now, if the text's too small, like it just is then, just type it again. Sometimes it is, you just click on the document or you misspell and then you have to correct it. Like that. And then once you've got your type, what you can do, you can blur it. So just go to Filter and down to Blur. And now you could use any of these blurs. Box blur is really good. Gaussian blur is excellent. Lens blur, I like them all. Motion blur is a favourite. So I'm just going to go here and it will ask you, convert to smart object. Yes. Because smart objects mean you can change the type, you can change the font, you can change everything as well as the effect itself. Convert to smart object. And now it's a smart object and you can see you've got the type. Now you might go over the edge. You can always avoid that just by reducing the distance or repositioning the type so it's not in the centre. You can change the angle. I'm going to go with 90 because it's up and down. But you can change it 45 degrees, perfectly reasonable. And click OK. And you can see your type there. And you can see now in the Layers panel, you've got Smart Filter, you've got Motion Blur. You can see the effect you just applied. And you can double click at any point and then you can change it. Just go to the word Motion Blur, double click that. Also, you can go here, this side, and you can change the blending mode. So just double click that and go with, say, Darken. So you don't have to go with normal. There is a reason. There is a difference if you go with Darken or other ones. And of course, depending on the colours as well. So click OK. Now you've got there Motion Blur. You can add other ones, but I'm going to now add some colour to it. Otherwise, you'll never see any colour. So Layer, and I can go down to New Adjustment Layer. And now all these are very good. And of course, if the image itself had some colour, then it would be okay. But I'm just going to go with Gradient Map. Brings in a lot of colour very quickly. So Gradient Map, give it a name, and click OK. Default one, unfortunately, black to white or whatever. I'm certain it will be different for you. So click here and you can see you've got a variety of different gradients. Now yours will be different, but I'm going to go with this one of the legacy ones. And you can change the colours. You don't have to go with the existing colours. So now I've got this blue all the way through to yellow. And you can see the type effect here. You can also go with reverse. Very quick way of creating a different effect. Or click that again. Or method, just change out linear. You can just see subtle differences between the three of them. Also, you can just click here, a single click, and you've got the editor. And now you can see you've got yellow at the far end. And obviously you've got the image is all in yellow. Well, I don't want that anymore. I want it to be different colour. So instead of just, unfortunately, one thing always bugs me, sometimes it will do it. I've done this during the pre-run for this. You can double click it and it will ignore. Then other times you can click there and it will come up. I would suggest just go here. There is some logic to it. I don't know. Sometimes it appears, sometimes it doesn't. Like most applications. I think sometimes trouble is sometimes I use about 15 different applications and I get to the point where I'm not really certain which one sometimes. So I think if you use Photoshop every day, then it's fine. If you use another one, you start thinking, hang on, doesn't it do that? So you can change the colour. And I know I get, so I've just changed that to white, but also you might turn around and say, I don't want that. I want that to be, so click here. That's always the best thing. And change it maybe to green or maybe light blue. And you can see get a smudged effect, obviously with the blue for the actual text as well there. And of course you don't have to go with that. You can always decide, you know what, I don't want that one. Let's go for maybe red. So you can change that. Create a variety of different colour effects. Now there's also other ones you've got here, noise as well. So you can create some interesting noise effects. And of course there's a variety of different options here. However, I don't want that one. I want solid. Just going to go back with this one. And I'm just going to add some additional colour there. Let's just add black. And I've got that. Just move that just there. Move the black a bit further that way. And click OK. So now you've got your colourful blurred type effect. Well, it's okay. It's very nice. But what you can do, You can always, at any point, go and change the smart filters. Make certain you select the type layer. If you don't select it, you're selecting the adjustment layer. It will not work. Actually, the blur gallery is not available. So make certain you select the type layer. And with that selected, you can go to filter and you go to blur gallery and you can go down to tilt shift. And I think that's one of the better ones. I mean, all the others are great. RS blur is excellent. Pass blur, they're really good, but tilt shift. And you can always change your mind, because the one thing about this, once you're inside this blur gallery, you've got functionality, you've got all the others, fill blur, RS blur, and tilt shift is active. You can see that little active there. And you can then change the blur setting. And you've got one added, one by default. I mention that because you can add multiple tilt shifts. To modify the current tilt shift, simply go to this control here. And you can see then you can move it around, so you can reposition it. And as you do that, you'll see the type changes, the blurring effect change. Also, you can extend and rotate. So you can decide, you know what, I want that slightly rotated, the tilt. And again, you will see it change. Now, it's probably best to actually see the effect really intensely is to go over here to tilt shift. You've got blur tools and you can increase the blur. So let's just push that up a bit. Also, you can change the distortion, modify that. You can see that also has an effect. So once you've done that, and again, you can still go to that. And as you move it, drag it around, you can see the blur changes. Also, go here and you can decrease that, increase that. You can see the range, or like that. You can also rotate it. So just go here. You can see this control here and that control. Just rotate it. And as you do that, the type, the blurring effect will also change as well. At any point, if you want to add additional ones, you can see you've got this cursor here and it's got a little plus. So you can click anywhere. So decide, oh, let's just go over here. So click here and you can see that one. Now this one's still available. It's not active, but you can see obviously the effect is, but it's not active in terms of the actual tools. You're not modifying things. So you can go over here. You can say, you know what? I want that to be positioned, change that. Also, you can increase or decrease the blurring effect. Just change that. And if I go back to this one, you can see as I move that around. Now, if you go to this blur and that blur, you can see this blur settings exactly the same. But the position, if you go and change, select that one, move that there, or move that one there, it will result in a different effect. And of course, you can rotate this one. If I go to this one, as soon as you select it, you can see the lines at a different angle. They're not matching. So each one has got a different tilt. Just the blur setting is the same. It's a pity really in many ways. It would be nice if you could actually have multiple with different blurring effects, but that doesn't appear to be the way it works. So if I add another one, so if I click there, again, you see the blur effect, 185, exactly the same. And you can increase, modify distortion, and again, change the angle for the blur effect. And you can see I can apply it for, say that, the E. And I can click OK. And I could, of course, add some more blurring effects. But also what I can now do, I can then say, oh, you know what, I don't want the blur gallery. So I can always just go to this eye. So I can click there and I can just remove it. Or I can click there and remove the motion blur. And you can see again the different effect, the different result. Also, again, double click there, you can change that. So the effect obviously there, if I go for difference, you'll notice a problem. The reason being is because, of course, the text is black. If I change the colour of the text, you're thinking, well, how do you change the colour of the text now? You've got all these effects on it. You've done all this. It's still live. So you can always just go here. So double click here, little smart object thumbnail there. So double click. Sadly, it always just makes it the size of the type. There's no edge around it. But you can always move it around. You can always resize it. Type is obviously infinitely flexible, so you can make it smaller. You can also just use the crop tool, make the area bigger. It's another option as well. And of course, you can apply effects within this. Also, you can go to the type tool, so select type tool, and you can turn around and say, well, I don't want it to be black anymore. I can make it, say, red. Or maybe select that one and just go and make that green. Or maybe go to this one and just select, obviously there, make it yellow. So you can see a different result with that. But what you can also do is you can apply effects to it. Just go here to layers panel, go down the bottom, you've got effects at the bottom, so click there and you can say, let's go for drop shadow. So click there, drop shadow, you can add a quick drop shadow. Now make certain it doesn't go over the edge, because if it goes over the edge, it's not going to look nice. But if you keep it within the confines, you can make it just like that, change the settings. Also maybe add bevel and emboss. Again, just subtle change like that. And once you've done that, click OK. And you can change the text itself. So I'm just going to go and say, oh, I don't want that, I want speech. Now, obviously all the colours I've just added and changed, I've lost. But let's just change that to blue and press return. At any point, you can always close it. You can always come back to it. So if you decide, you know what, I want to change it later, well, I will. But I'm just going to close that and then save. And it will process it again. And you can see the result there. And you can see now the effect has changed. And again, motion blur, you can change it, darken, run through it. And you can see now, when you've got, because of the colours, difference, you can go for a different one and you've got to say like there. So you can see that this does make a difference. So click OK. And again, you can still go here to blur gallery, turn that off, turn it on, motion blur, turn that off. Now you'll notice there is a cutting edge there. The way it's done, not really elegant, which is a pity, but that is the way it seems to work. Don't ask me. Sometimes smart objects work in a way, I really wish that it was slightly different. But you can always, again, let's just go double click here. And you can see then, let's just reduce this size. Obviously, clearly I've gone over the edge with that. It's a pity, it makes that cutting edge. I wish it would analyse it and say, oh, you don't really want to do that, do you? You want to actually not cut it off, or just ask you if it's... So again, you can always change it. You always say, oh, that drop shadow, I don't want that drop shadow. So I can remove it. Click OK. And again, go back. And just close that again and save. And as soon as you do that, you'll see then you don't get that slightly annoying edge to it effect. And of course, what you can always do at any point, you can always resize this. So let's just change that, resize that. Just drag that a bit out. Press return and you can see you've got slightly bigger text there. You can also double click this and you can change the adjustment. So you can change that to a different gradient and you can see you get a different result from that just by changing the gradient, running through all of those. And again, you can still change the method, linear, classic, etc. Well, that's a great way of creating some very interesting text effects in Photoshop using gradient maps, as well as smart objects such as the blurring effects. And of course you can combine it with multiple other ones as well. Lots of other filter effects that you can use. Hope you found this of interest. Any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Always great to know. A like or dislike, always great as well. Thank you much.